Hello, good afternoon. You're watching Manchester Today. The M60 near Junction 21 at Chadderton has now been fully reopened after being closed for most of the night. Shortly after 12:30 a.m. this morning, police were called to the motorway where officers attended and found the body of a man who was seen to fall from a bridge. There are not believed to be any suspicious circumstances surrounding the death. Police are still seeking help from the public after a stabbing in Rochdale. A 21-year-old man was stabbed twice in the back in the early hours of Saturday, the 9th of August, on Curzon Road. Police were called to the address after reports of fighting and arrived to find the man with stab wounds to the back. He was taken to hospital suffering a punctured lung, but his injuries are not thought to be life-threatening. A man and a boy have been charged in relation to the incident. Tabriz Ali has been charged with assault. A 16-year-old boy who cannot be named for legal reasons has also been charged with assault. Both appeared before Rochdale magistrates on Monday the 11th of August and were granted conditional bail. Anyone with any information about this incident is asked to call police on 0161 856 4644 or call Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111. A 40-year-old man is in a serious condition in hospital following a road traffic collision in Salford. Police are appealing for witnesses to the collision, which happened on Silk Street, just past the junction with North George Street, at about 4:50 a.m. on Tuesday morning. A 46-year-old man was driving a white Iveco box van along the road when the van was in collision with a pedestrian. The victim was taken to Hope Hospital in Salford with a head injury and suspected broken ankle, where he remains in a serious but stable condition. Anyone with any information is asked to call traffic police on 0161 856 7773. A man extradited from Spain by police last month has now been charged with conspiracy to commit murder following a Salford shooting 2 years ago. Robert Spires from Prestwich was arrested to appear before Manchester magistrates yesterday. It comes after a shootout at the Brass Handles pub in Salford in 2006, where 2 men were shot dead. Carlton Alvarenga and Richard Austin went to the pub to assassinate 2 other men in a gangland-style attack, but were themselves shot and killed. Constance Howarth from Salford and Ian MacLeod from Radcliffe were both found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder at Preston Crown Court earlier this year and are both serving life sentences. Mr Spires is remanded to appear at Manchester Crown Court on October the 28th. The Post Office has released its decision on Greater Manchester and High Peaks post offices, and it's not good news. 62 branches will close throughout Greater Manchester and High Peak, with the first closures scheduled to take place in mid-September. These branches were detailed in the aerial plan proposal published on the 10th of June. The 316 remaining post offices fall within government guidelines that a majority of services will either not change or that post offices will still be available no further than a mile by road. 4 have been saved after consultation after issues were reviewed, but as a result of that, 2 more are now under threat in Ashton-under-Lyne and Middleton. Another 6-week consultation will take place there, and a further decision on the post office at 3rd Avenue in Trafford needs a further review before a final decision is made on its future. During the public consultation, over 5,500 people responded and dozens of public meetings were held to voice concerns. The post office asserts that the views aired were crucial in the final decisions made. Now, it's possibly another victim of the credit crunch, but it looks like the plans for a £500 million redevelopment scheme for Stockport has been served a huge disappointment. One of the biggest backers, Australian developer Lend-Lease, has suddenly pulled out of the plans. Millions of pounds have already been spent in planning and consultations to create the ideas hailed as a whole new lease of life for Stockport. Council leaders have been left disappointed and bewildered at that plans at such a late stage, with cranes arriving, would now possibly have to be shelved, and they've called on Lend-Lease to meet them for crisis talks next week. The Bridgefield development was to bring new shops, homes, restaurants, a cinema and much needed extra parking to Stockport. It's estimated that around 2,000 jobs were to be created by the scheme. Work had been due to start in 2010. Lend-Lease have so far not stated their reason for the change of heart. Detectives investigating the rape of a 17-year-old girl in a churchyard in Earlham want to speak to a man who may have seen her before the attack. The girl was near St John's Cemetery near the junction of Liverpool Road and Broadway when she was approached by a man she didn't know. The man then grabbed her and raped her. The girl had been seen with a friend earlier on Broadway when they asked a man for directions to the cemetery. It's this man that police would like to talk to. If you do have any information, please call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. The Arthritis Research Campaign are funding studies at the University of Manchester to find out whether the power of suggestion or the placebo effect actually helps patients to show signs of improvement with chronic widespread pain. £20,000 has been set aside for the 3-year trial involving patients from pain clinics at the Hope Hospital in Salford and others around the northwest. The trials are hoping to discover whether placebo or dummy pills actually release natural painkillers into the body when patients think they are being treated. Scientists at the university believe the study will help them to understand how the brain deals with pain and whether the anticipation of relief may actually be as effective as high-dose drug therapies. Salford Council and police are renewing appeals to tackle racists in the city. It follows the banning of a man from a shop for 2 years for abusing the owner. 30-year-old Richard Coffey received an ASBO from Salford magistrates after shouting racist remarks at the owner of the Grange store in Winton. He was arrested by a plainclothes officer who was outside the store who witnessed the harassment. Coffey was charged with aggravated harassment. As part of his ASBO, he has not only been banned for the store for 2 years, but was also served with a punishment order and placed under a nighttime curfew. Salford Council operate a hotline for anyone who experiences antisocial or racist behaviour. The number is 0161 909 6544. Now, Greater Manchester crime figures make for sorry reading for residents in Wigan. New figures released show that 34% of all the burglaries committed in the borough between last April and March this year were made easier by careless homeowners. In July last year, 51 properties in the area were burgled. 40 of them were down to thieves entering through open or unlocked doors, and GMP have renewed their call to alert residents to the increased amount of opportunist burglars around. Wendy O'Neill, who's GMP's crime reduction advisor for Wigan, is warning all residents to ensure they secure all their doors and windows whenever they leave the house alone. She also added that houses with burglar alarms were very much less likely to suffer the invasion to their homes and that people should not wait for a burglary to consider having one installed. Now, a boost for the voluntary and community sector in the area as part of a £130 million scheme called the Grassroots Grants Programme. The Community Foundation for Greater Manchester have been selected to allocate around £3.4 million to 9 of the 10 districts. The scheme works in 2 parts. The first will allocate grants to new and existing organisations. These will be anything up to £5,000, and the grants are funded by the Office of the Third Sector. The foundation will also have the ability to tap into a further fund of £4.5 million from an endowments programme. This will help groups who rely on large donations from corporates and individuals and will in some cases match larger donations and in effect invest in their future. The programme will be administered in the one remaining borough of Bolton by the local CVS. The programme also aims to assist groups practically by providing long-term funding for small and voluntary and community organisations. It's a 3-year programme and will secure the future for many vital groups. Well, with all the talk of the congestion charge for Greater Manchester, some traffic chaos is unfortunately necessary while important work is done. Remember that if you drive around Eccles, because from the 18th of August, the swing bridge on Barton Road will be closed heading towards Trafford for up to 5 months. It's all to provide new electricity cables under the Manchester Ship Canal. Diversions will be in place, but it will put extra pressure on the already busy Liverpool Road, Gilderbrook Road and Centenary Way, especially during rush hours. Monton will suffer too because the diversion route also adds to problems on Worsley Road in Eccles, which remains closed for up to 6 months more after a sewer collapse. The swing bridge will remain open heading from Trafford to Eccles whilst the electrical work is completed. Council workers in Bury gathered outside the town hall yesterday in a row over plans to adjust salaries. The impromptu union meeting was called about plans that will cut pay for many. It came after the council were accused of paying women less than comparable positions traditionally carried out by men. It means, though, that 30% of council workers would actually get a pay cut, losing between £2,000 and £10,000 each. Unison have warned that other councils could go the same way if authorities manipulate the pay line. They've called on their members to discuss possible strike action in the future. Bury Council said that in every council in the country must adhere to the conditions, and that staff whose salary will go down will receive protection from between 1 and 3 years, depending on the level of their loss. Well, that's all from the Manchester Today team for now. We're always online at manchestertoday.tv, where you can email us any news or views that you might have. And Polly Winder will be back tomorrow at the same time. So from me, bye for now.